Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Plays being cancelled. The impact of revised COVID-19 restrictions on the entertainment sector. 2 PNP vice presidential candidates apologize to Central Manchester MP Rhoda Moore Crawford. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. The entertainment sector is in the spotlight this afternoon, specifically theatre. Confusion about the fate of some events, while others have started to cancel. Cody and Barrett reports.
The theatre industry is struggling to recover. At first, elation among the entertainment industry following the announcements by Prime Minister Andrew Holness about a phased reopening of the sector. But then, on Monday, a revision of the COVID-19 restrictions, placing a limit on gatherings and an earlier curfew imposed. Now we're beginning to see some shows being cancelled. The first was Johnny's comedy show, but the question was asked whether or not plays and similar shows could move to an earlier time.
That's not possible with the nature of the show that we have. Our audience is a working audience. People go to work. My show is a weekday show. It was established as a weekday show. The weekends really don't make any sense for my show either.
It's not so practical. You mean you'd be starting the play on a weekday at what, 3 o'clock? 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, so that people not will be able to go to work and come back or go home, get ready and then come back so that the play can finish at 7.
While theatre houses will each decide what changes to make, plays that are scheduled to begin in August are being postponed. Actor Glenn Campbell, who was scheduled to be a part of a new production, says he's disappointed.
I was so looking forward to being back on stage. We had made plans for reopening on August 5 with our new production, Mo, Joe and Flo. We had this great support and enthusiasm from audience members and patrons who said, yes, they're so glad that we're going to be open. And then the curfew time changed. And so we've had to postpone our opening, and unfortunately, this postponement is indefinite.
On average, it takes at least 6 weeks to prepare for a play, and the window given to operate was too short for the industry to make any profit. And Mr. Dawkins is of the view that the industry is already dead.
Some of the theatre houses have had to be given up. Others hold for rent. Others, it just can't survive without activities, because the activities generate revenue. And we are affected when we don't have something running for a week. Can you imagine a year and a half?
This is one of the locations where plays are frequently held, but there haven't been a play here in quite some time. For persons anticipating to attend a play, they will have to wait a little while longer. Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
181 new COVID-19 cases were recorded in the last 24 hours from 2,760 tests. The country's case count now stands at 52,322. This brings the positivity rate to 19.3%. 3 new deaths were recorded, pushing the death toll to 1,182. Meanwhile, 141 people have been hospitalized with the virus. 23 are critically ill and 33 moderately ill. There are 3,871 active cases. As the country braces for a further increase in COVID-19 cases, hospitals across the island are putting plans in place to ensure that they do not get overwhelmed. Vashon Brown has more.
With the rise in COVID-19 cases, some hospitals are close to being overwhelmed by the patient load. With most of the institutions either in the red or amber zones, plans are being put in place to ensure beds do not run out.
In terms of the field hospitals or preparations so far, and this is now speaking to hospital readiness, have included the creation of additional bed capacity through the activation of the field hospitals, Spanish Town, 32 beds also at Falmouth, that's 30 at Spanish Town, 32 at Falmouth, and St. Joseph's. 2 other 40-bed facilities are to become available. These will add 184 beds to the existing 716 beds. So we are preparing should we require additional capacity.
Last week, the ministry also announced that another field hospital will be set up. The 40-bed field hospital will be located in Mapen, Clarendon. Chairman of the Southern Regional Health Authority, Wayne Chen, says hospitals in the region have been putting plans in place to ensure they do not go above capacity.
At the present time, the wards in the hospitals in the southern region, that would be Black River Hospital, Mandeville Regional Hospital, the Percy Junior Hospital in Spalding, Lionel Town, Maypen, they are not full. And this is not to give the public any comfort. It is just to say that we have space. But we have also noticed that in the last week or so, the numbers have been steadily rising.
He says the frontline healthcare workers have been on standby.
We have built a lot of experience over the last year and since last March when we had the first recorded case in Jamaica. So we have always been on high alert. We watch what is happening in the rest of the world where there have been second and third waves of infection. So we stand ready.
In the meantime, Dr. Tufton again pointed out that there are plans to ensure there's adequate oxygen supply.
We have increased our ability to offer high-flow nasal oxygen, which allows us to treat severely ill patients out of ICU settings. The number of ventilators in the public system have increased, but we remain challenged by the number of personnel, critical care nurses to man those stations, and so we have to manage that process.
Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
And back to the entertainment sector, concern about the greater risk of spread of the COVID-19 virus at entertainment events has led to renewed calls from another member of the medical community for their cancellation. To cancel or not to cancel, a debate that has been raging over the entertainment sector following a spike in COVID-19 cases. In an interview on Tuesday, public health specialist Professor Winston Davidson said scientific evidence suggests the relaxation of the COVID-19 containment measure was premature.
100 persons, 60 persons, and the reduction in terms of percentage, I think, would have been more. Because remember, it is the cluster of cases. It is the persons who are engaged in events which are hard to manage, especially the entertainment events that are hard to manage. Once you say that you are having an event, it is very, very difficult to manage that event when a lot of people turn out. And this is where you have the explosion of the epidemic.
But today, another public health expert is weighing in. Professor Peter Figueroa is not opposed to the entertainment sector remaining open, despite the country bracing for a third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. He believes the events can continue to be held as long as the protocols are observed.
I do think we needed to ease the entertainment sector, especially for outdoor events, but I would not have gone to 70% capacity. I would have kept it at 50%, and I would have set up a mechanism to provide much more ongoing support to ensure that the best protocol, that the protocols were maintained during the events. You have to support the sectors to maintain the standards.
Medical Association of Jamaica President Dr. Andrew Manning, who has called for the cancellation of entertainment events, told our news center that there is growing concern in the medical field about the decision to continue allowing large-scale events. Meanwhile, some party promoters say they will have to take more of their events overseas as local COVID-19 restrictions continue to threaten the survival of the entertainment industry. In other news now, following wide-scale backlash, 2 PNP vice presidential candidates have apologized for comments they made about Central Manchester MP Rhoda Moore Crawford. In a release from Richard Azan and Ian Hales, the men said they reflected on their remarks and have realized, quote, what was once cut-and-thrust banter on a political platform now constitutes an unacceptable personal attack on another politician, end quote. The release further stated that while it was not the intention of the men to say anything that could be regarded outside the range of acceptable political platform oratory, they now realize that what was said caused offense, not only to their colleague, the Member of Parliament for Central Manchester, but also to members of the public. The release also read, Quote, "We apologize to MP Crawford and all who were offended by our remarks," end quote. The men said they are committed to being more mindful of how their language may affect others in the future and will maintain a higher standard of civility in their discourse and encourage others to do so. And Member of Parliament for Central Manchester, Rhoda Moore Crawford, in a swift response says she accepts and appreciates the apology of the men. It's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Two stakeholders in the transport industry have welcomed the proposed 3 strikes you're out policy. That policy essentially allows the state to forfeit the licenses of illegal taxi operators who breach the law at least 3 times. The recommendation is part of efforts to encourage illegal taxi operators to get regularized before the new Road Traffic Act comes into effect. Sandy Williams has the details.
At a recent Blue Ribbon First Responders Training and Certification session for public transport operators, the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch PSTEB proposed a 3 strikes and you're out policy. According to the head of PSTEB, Superintendent Gary McKenzie, rogue transport operators whose unlicensed vehicles have been seized multiple times by the police should have their property taken by the state. President of the Paul Bogo Taxi Association, Kirk Brown, welcomes the proposal.
It's unfortunate, but you have to look on the other side that red plate have been feeling the brunt because we have to be sharing that slice of bread with the white plate. So I know something has to be done and it cannot continue this way. So I know it's kind of harsh, but the white plate has, the illegal operators have to understand that in order to run as a red plate or a public transport in the transport sector, you have to apply and have a red plate.
And the president of the Jamaica Association of Acne and Contract Carriage, Willard Cosley, also agrees. Mr. Cosley says, personally, he believes Superintendent McKenzie is being extremely gentle.
3 strikes for me is too much. The fact is that if you're going to purchase your vehicle to operate as a public passenger vehicle, knowingly doing so, then you also know you should get the necessary prerequisite. Just 1 trip can endanger the entire life of a family. Rogue operators simply mean those persons who operate their vehicle without the necessary recommendation from the transport authority. They choose not to at least have the proper insurance, they choose not to have their road license, they choose not to have anything in the protection of the passenger. So he was more than lenient.
Superintendent McKenzie had said the Transport Authority made the granting of public passenger vehicle PPV license more efficient by issuing them in the regions where stakeholders operate. However, illegal operators refuse to get formalized. Mr. Brown says if the proposal is accepted, illegal operators may be encouraged to get regularized.
They continue to repeat, like each time you give them a ticket or you seize the vehicle, they come back and do the same thing and they do not apply. So I know that drastic action has to be taken in order for them to conform and apply for their road license.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
The court will tomorrow hear a bail application for 24-year-old Sean D. Bennett, who is charged with the fatal beating of his 4-year-old stepson in Willardine, St. Catherine. Mr. Bennett made his first appearance in the St. Catherine Parish Court yesterday. He's charged with cruelty to a child, child abuse, unlawful wounding, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. It was reported that on July 18, the boy, who was identified as Nashawn Brown, was at home when he became ill and refused to eat. It's alleged that Mr. Bennett became angry and began beating him with a stick. Nashawn was pronounced dead at the Spanish Town Hospital. And for the latest in the financial world, here's Cody and Barrett with a Business Minute.
In business news, rum and spirit sales have increased in the country during the 6 months ending June. Brands owned by Campari Group saw a $9.1 billion in profit. The spirits company based in Italy said the sales performance reflected increased consumption by locals and tourists. Jamaica registered overall sales growth of 33.9% relative to 2020. Fontana is expanding its stores to Portmore St. Catherine. Some $100 million will be divested on a new location on Brayton Parkway and Municipal Drive. The structure, which will span 20,000 square feet, is expected to be commissioned by 2023. And in business internationally, several Western U.S. airports have reported a shortage in jet fuel amid the increased demand for leisure travel. That could lead some flights to be cancelled or force airlines to add fuel stops to certain flights on longer routes. Part of the problem is the shortage of tanker truck drivers needed to deliver fuel. Pilots are being asked to conserve when possible. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And we go now to a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
Coming up in this evening's health report, we look at sun exposure and skin cancer.
It depends on the type of skin cancer. So for actinic keratosis, which are the precancerous lesions, we usually destroy them using liquid nitrogen or cryotherapy, or we have them use a product called imiquimod, which is available in the pharmacy, and they will use it on a weekly basis. Those are less likely to become problematic if we treat them from early.
That's the health report this evening at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Seek the shade, especially between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Don't get sunburned. Avoid tanning and never use UV tanning beds. Cover up with clothing, including a broad-brimmed hat and UV-blocking sunglasses. And use a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher each day.
It's now time for the top regional and international stories.
In Haiti, Attorney Reynold Georges, who is representing the presidential security chief, says the arrest of his client is politically motivated. The presidential security chief is accused of coordinating the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. He's been placed in solitary confinement. Police have so far detained 30 people, including 3 Haitian Americans and 26 Colombians, many of whom are former members of the Colombian army. On the international scene in Australia, Sydney's lockdown has been extended by another month as COVID cases continue to rise. Australia's largest city has been under stay-at-home orders since late June due to an outbreak of the Delta variant. More than 2,500 people have been infected in Sydney's worst outbreak this year. New South Wales, of which Sydney is the capital, reported 177 new cases yesterday, the most in a day since March 2020. The Premier said it was not possible for the city to exit lockdown on Friday, as had been planned. She announced further curbs on movement, including a 6.5-mile limit on essential shopping. And that's the latest international and regional stories. I'm Vashon Brown.
And we head now to a quick break. When we return, we'll have your midday sports report. Simon Preston is standing by.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Jamaican swimmer Keenan Dawes and judoka Ebony Drysdale Daly were both eliminated in their respective events at the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. To football we go now as head coach of the Reggae Boys, Theodore Tappa Whitmore, says Leon Bailey's absence from the Jamaican team against the United States in the CONCACAF Gold Cup on Sunday was due to injury. The Jamaicans were eliminated after going down 1-0 in the quarterfinals. Whitmore says Bailey was struggling with his knock from the group stages.
If Leon was 100% fit, then Leon would have participated in the game, but Leon was carrying a knock arm. Leon did not train from the day before the Costa Rica game. You know, we haven't got 20 full minutes from Leon Bailey, so I don't think it was, if we're looking on the bigger picture, I don't think it would be tedious to risk Leon in a game like that.
The Reggae Boys will open their World Cup qualifying campaign on September 2 against Mexico at the Azteca Stadium. Reggae boy Chevon Messi Marsh scored on debut for Costa Rican club Jicaral in a 1-0 draw against Perez Zeledon in the Costa Rican top flight on Tuesday. The 27-year-old midfielder, who came on as a substitute in the 74th minute, scored 7 minutes later to equalise. Marsh joined Jicaral last month on a 1-year deal until the summer of 2022. And finally, this afternoon, the first T20 international between the West Indies and Pakistan has been reduced to 9 overs per side. The match has been reduced due to persistent rain in the morning at the Kensington Oval in Barbados. At sports time, the Caribbean side had reached 51 for 3 after 6 overs after being sent into bat. The tour will comprise 4 T20s and 2 test matches. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Anthony, it's over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Simon, just before we go, I understand we go to the track tomorrow. What time should I set my alarm?
Well, fortunately, you don't have to set your alarm so early. So 7 p.m. Jamaica time, so that's evening hour time. That's when our nation's athletes will get on the track. We'll have the discus, we'll have the 800 meters and the 100 meters for women. So exciting action.
Just before we go, your medal predictions again?
14 medals, so 5 gold, 5 silver and 4 bronze.
Talk to me about the events.
I have the 100 for women and the 200 for women as well. Also in the men's discus as well. And the men's long jump and a relay as well, 4x1 for women. That's the gold medals.
All right, thank you, Simon. That's where we'll leave it for today. That's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.